mourning Queen, 95, reminds Harry what duty looks like by going back to work. After a week that shook the country's establishment to the core, it took the Queen to steady the ship of state as she formally launched Britain's largest naval flotilla in a generation. With the feud between Princes William and Harry still echoing and the BBC facing unprecedented criticism over the Martin Bashir scandal, the Queen received cheers on the Royal Navy ship that carries her name. In her first large-scale public solo engagement since the death of the Duke of Edinburgh, the 95-year-old monarch flew by helicopter to Portsmouth yesterday to wish luck to the crew of HMS Queen Elizabeth before it began the official part of its maiden deployment to the Indo-Pacific at 9:30 p.m. last night. Wearing a red cashmere coat and a crepe wool dress by Stuart Parvin, a Rachel Trevor Morgan hat, and the scarab brooch, a gift from her beloved husband, she was greeted by the ship's commanding officer, Captain Angus Asenhigh, and Commodore Stephen Morehouse, commander of the UK Carrier Strike Group, CSG. Her Majesty was shown a map highlighting the route the £3 billion ship will take during her 26,000-mile, 7-month deployment to the Far East, and also had a chance to meet some of the 1,700 personnel on board, which include Royal Navy sailors, Royal Air Force aviators, Royal Marines, and 250 United States personnel. Looking at the size of the 4.5-acre ship, the Queen commented, "There's plenty of room on board." She was introduced to Chief Petty Officer Paul Brooks, 40, and son Morgan, a 20-year-old marine engineer and technician, who are both serving on the carrier. Paul, a father of 6, said, "The Queen certainly had a sparkle in her eye when she heard that Morgan and I were father and son and we are both serving on board at the same time. I think she liked that. I told her I was very proud." When presenting a medal for long service and good conduct for 15 years in the Royal Navy, to Petty Officer Matthew Reddy, 33, the Queen was told he had served on HMS Illustrious during a disaster relief mission in the Philippines. He said, "The Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh were coming on board HMS Illustrious once when we had an accident with an aircraft on board." The Queen remembered it and said, "I hope that wasn't you or I shall have to ask for the medal back." After receiving a briefing on the deployment, she was given an official 3 cheers by the ship's company as she ascended one of its mighty McTaggart Scott aircraft elevators designed to carry 2 F-35B strike fighters. The visit was the first in a series of high-profile, in-person engagements the Queen will undertake in the coming weeks. Captain Asenhigh said, "It was absolutely thrilling. It's always a great privilege to host the Queen because she has such great ties to our service. To have her both as our sovereign and as our sponsor for the ship to come and wish us well as we set off has been very special. I think she was taken aback by the scale of the endeavor that we're setting out on and the people and the equipment we have on board now." Commodore Morehouse said the Queen was looking forward to some peace and quiet, as the F-35B jets based near her home in Sandringham would be away on the deployment for 7 months. He said, "It wasn't lost on her they are from Mara, just down the road from Sandringham, so she hears them regularly." He added, "It was an absolute privilege to host Her Majesty on her flagship. She was really fascinated and interested in where we were going and was particularly struck not just by where the carrier was going but where the frigates and destroyers are going and the variety of the trip." He said morale was fantastic ahead of sailing and added, "The smiles on the faces is as much to meet Her Majesty but also knowing we will get away." Former First Sea Lord Admiral Lord West said the monarch had once again demonstrated the meaning of duty. He said, "Her Majesty is simply inspirational, because she is driven by a sense of duty and she has never let the nation down. But it's important to remember that she has very close links with the Royal Navy. Her grandfather, her father and even her husband were all naval officers, and they met HMS Invincible when it returned from the Falklands with Prince Andrew on board. And she also realizes that producing 2 large carriers after the coalition government in 2010 almost gave them up has been a real national effort, involving thousands of British people." HMS Queen Elizabeth, the largest and most powerful vessel in the history of the Royal Navy, was built by a cast of more than 10,000, including more than 800 apprentices, in 6 dockyards from the banks of the Clyde to the River Torridge. But yesterday was about more than respect for the Royal Navy, said Admiral Lord West. While, officially, the deployment is described as primarily centered on regenerating the UK's carrier strike capability, it sends a far stronger message about the projection of the UK's global reach. Its timing has been organized as part of the UK's tilt to the Indo-Pacific region in a bid to bolster deep defense partnerships as well as to take part in an exercise to mark the 50th anniversary of the Five Powers Defence Agreement with Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, and New Zealand. Her Majesty is head of the Commonwealth, and I'm sure that she's delighted that we are looking outwards and saying that the established global order, which is under threat, is important and we are playing our part in supporting it, he said. The carrier, which is sailing with 250 U.S. Marines in addition to their 1,500 Royal Marines and Royal Navy sailors and aviators, will carry 18 state-of-the-art F-35B fast jets, operated by Joint RAF and Royal Navy 617 Squadron, and the U.S. Marine Corps, the greatest quantity of fifth-generation Lightning jets ever put to sea. But the Carrier Strike Group is about more than just one vessel. It will be accompanied by 6 Royal Navy ships, a submarine, U.S. destroyer USS the Sullivans and the Dutch frigate HNLMS Evertsen. It will also boast 14 helicopters, the greatest quantity assigned to a single UK task group in a decade. Its 28-week odyssey will cover 26,000 nautical miles traveling through the Mediterranean to the Red Sea, then from the Gulf of Aden to the Arabian Sea and Indian Ocean to the Philippine Sea. It will visit 40 countries including India, Japan, South Korea, and Singapore, taking part in more than 70 engagements, including sailing alongside the French carrier Charles de Gaulle in the Mediterranean. Last night Defence Secretary Ben Wallace said, "The UK's Carrier Strike Group sets sail to write Britain's name in the next chapter of history, a truly global Britain that steps forward to tackle the challenges of tomorrow, working hand in hand with our friends to defend our shared values and uphold the rules-based international order." James Rogers, of the Council on Geostrategy think tank, said, "China has already begun to accuse Britain of returning to UK gunboat diplomacy and empire, despite the fact that the CSG is a multinational force sailing in international waters. Before it reaches the South China Sea, vessels from the group will have gone to the Black Sea, and I know Ukrainians are very keen to have them visit Odessa and other locations as they suffer increasing Russian meddling and interference. The only country that is engaging in gunboat diplomacy is China in the South China Sea with the harassment of Philippine and Vietnamese ships, using large formations of Chinese warships to block access and engaging in provocative action with U.S. and Japanese vessels. China has asked itself alongside the French carrier Charles de Gaulle in the Mediterranean. Last night Defence Secretary Ben Wallace said, "The UK's carrier strike group sets sail to write Britain's name in the next chapter of history, a truly global Britain that steps forward to tackle the challenges of tomorrow, working hand in hand with our friends to defend our shared values and uphold the rules-based international order." James Rogers, of the Council on Geostrategy think tank, said, "China has already begun to accuse Britain of returning to UK gunboat diplomacy and empire, despite the fact that the CSG is a multinational force sailing in international waters. Before it reaches the South China Sea, vessels from the group will have gone to the Black Sea, and I know Ukrainians are very keen to have them visit Odessa and other locations as they suffer increasing Russian meddling and interference. The only country that is engaging in gunboat diplomacy is China in the South China Sea, with the harassment of Philippine and Vietnamese ships, using large formations of Chinese warships to block access and engaging in provocative actions with US and Japanese vessels. China should ask itself why so many countries around it are welcoming this deployment.